was some crazy shit on that, you know? I mean, and it happened, like most of it happened before I got there. Like the St. Louis riot, Montreal riot, that was all before I got there, you know? And then I was there as a support act, and I saw some you know, crazy stuff. Like we did 3 nights. Sorry, I gotta readjust here.
That's right.
What happens, kids, you get old and your ass hurts. So we did 3 nights at Madison Square Garden, right? And the last night being Friday the 13th. And now I don't know if this is legend, if it's true or not, but the story I heard was that Axl didn't want to go on when it was still Friday the 13th. So we didn't go on until after midnight, and it became the 14th. Now, for those of you who have never had to do a load in or load out at Madison Square Garden, well, you deal with 3 unions, okay? There's the Teamsters that unload your trucks at the bottom. There's IATSE Local 1, which brings your gear up the ramp to the upper level where the garden is actually located. And they take care of everything from like where you load in and the upstage and all that to like the downstage edge. And then the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, IBEW, they basically take care of the audio and stuff on the floor. But then I've been there when we had to, like, it was weird. Like we had this, it was with the Foo Fighters, all right, in 07 or 08. And we had a B stage out on the floor in front of house, right? And what we do is we'd fly it and we hide it in what we called a garage up on the roof until the band went out. Right, so we'd like put the, you know, the acoustic gear out there and secure it all down and everything, and then take this little stage up. So then that was a little bit of like, well, is it IBW? Is it IATSE? Thankfully, I wasn't the stage manager for that. I was just a carp. I was like, you tell me who I'm working with and I'll work. I don't have to deal with that. But what I'm getting to is that they're unions, so you have like minimums and overtime and all that. So the fact that they went on so late, like, I don't know what the labor bill was, but I'm sure it was crazy. And like Opie was a production manager, and I'm sure it was an effing nightmare, right? And I'm glad it's something like I say, I don't need that merit badge. I'm glad I missed it, right? That was a good day to be a support act. Let's put it that way, right? So, crap, Alan, I know where I was going with it. So we get through the Guns Metallica thing. And I mean, for me, it's pretty uneventful. There's probably stuff that happened that I don't remember. Then we go to South America, which I kind of talked about, right? And then you want to talk about good people? Well, here's good people. We're in, I don't know if it was Sao Paulo or where, but the manager of the band at the time, Doug Goldstein, calls me to his room, and he's like, all right, so who's taking your place? I'm like, what do you mean who's taking my place? He goes, who's taking your place? Like, your wife's supposed to give birth in January, all right? We're going to be in Australia and Japan at that time. We're going and doing that tour, and you're not going. You're going to stay home. And I'm like, well, Doug, I have to, who's taking your place? Don't worry about it. So basically what happened was, good people that they are, between Doug and the band, they not only paid for somebody to come out, and it was Elwood. Elwood came back out and filled in for me. They paid me to stay home. Paid me full salary to stay home and be with my wife when our son was born. Now, nobody fucking does that. You know what I mean? So anybody out there who's a hater, you don't know the whole story, all right? They're good people. I know that to be a fact. So yeah, so that happened, right? And then I came back out when we started in the US. We did this thing called Skin and Bones, right? So it was like we had Brian May from Queen, right? We had Brian May band.
So you gave me a 10 pence or whatever.
Yeah. 6 pence, I think. Yeah. He uses a guitar pick. Yeah. So Brian May was out with us. Wonderful human being, great band. One of my favorite drummers ever, Cozy Powell, who played on the Rainbow record, which I earlier said changed my life. I got to see him play. I'd seen him play once before with Rainbow. It was the Down to Earth tour, but Graham Bonnet was singing, Ronnie was gone. But I actually got to like meet him, right? And I hope I didn't piss him off, because unfortunately he's departed as well. But the drum tech's like, yeah, come on over and say hello, right? So I come over and I meet him, right? And I get a set of his sticks. And they're big drumsticks, right? And I'm like, damn, Cozy, you freaking swinging some lumber here, right? And his response was, well, I don't fucking tickle him now, do I? And I was like, oh, man, nothing like pissing off your heroes, but nah, I mean, it was just, again, one of those like fanboy moments, right? So, and I still got those sticks at home somewhere. Yeah, they were made by a company called Shaw, I think. I'd never heard of it. I think it's an English stick company, but yeah.
Well, and you would know sticks, so.
Yeah, but I mean, in the U.S., you have like, there was Regal Tip and there was Vic Firth and, Zildjian makes them now, and I don't know who. I've kind of been out of the game.
Right.
So we start up on the skin and bones thing in arenas, and yeah, I mean, Brian May's out, and it was just, I don't know. It was just one of those things that I'm so grateful, but again, more luck than judgment I was part of, right?
Yeah, but that's something people just don't know. It's like there's a whole crew behind these guys.
Oh yeah, I mean, maybe the army is not the word to say, but like if you're on a stadium tour, you probably got at least minimum 60 to like 75 people that are traveling with you, and that's just the crew party. That's not the band party, right? I think like when we were doing the South America thing, I think we were like at least 100 people all in on the plane, on the charter. That's why we had a DC-10, So, and again, I don't, I guess I'm making up some of the numbers, but I know it's a lot of people. A lot of people. But yeah, there were little things on that tour, like for instance, every night Axl would get a steak in his dressing room, right? And he would never eat it. So after the band would go, it would be a round robin of like who got to eat Axl's steak. Like you get like a call on the radio, like, hey, you're up, steak night or whatever, right? And the other thing with those guys, like for the backline guys, right? Like, myself and Slash's tech and Duff's tech and Matt Strum, we would have to go to the dressing room after our truck was loaded. It was like mandatory. Like if you didn't show up, they'd send security to find you, and they're like, what's wrong? What's going on? Like they just wanted you to come and hang out and what's going on and how was the show? And I mean, it really, really had like this like family vibe to it, right? I remember here's another story. First gig I did in Arizona. I think it was at Compton Park. Again. Or no, it was at the racetrack. It wasn't. It was at the racetrack with the Guns Metallica thing. I'm looking for a place to shower, right? And I like walk into this room and there's Slash. I'm like, oh shit, sorry dude. He's like, sorry what? Come on in. Plenty of showers. Just normal guy, right? Like, doesn't matter. You just played a gig in front of how many friggin' tens of thousands of people. It's just like, yeah, dude, go get a fucking shower. Yeah. And later when he did the Slash's Snake Pit tour that I did in '95, we did one of these things where like we did like a round the world plane ticket, right? Like we started in the US and then we flew to Japan, and then from Japan to Europe and around Europe and then like back to the US, right? And dude, he had everybody sit in the pointy end with him, right? Because he's like, I don't want to sit up here alone, So that came out of his pocket, So I mean, just again, good people take care of their people. I mean, at least then, I don't know. I haven't been there in over 30 years,
right. So
I don't know what's going on now, but back then, I mean, I can't see it changing, right? Like stuff like that doesn't, but again, I don't know, but I mean, there's still a lot of those people there. I mean, like Tom Mayhew's still there. His brother Mike, AKA McBob, has worked with Duff since I want to say like '87, right? Since Appetite for Destruction. They're still there. For a while, Slash's tech, Adam Day, came back. I know he hasn't been there for a few years, but, these guys all came back, so there you go. But, yeah. All right, where was I? I'm getting off topic now.
Well, we're probably, 93, 92?
Well, we're still...